guys, it's Patrick. I am sitting here by the Cedar River, all bundled up because it is freezing out here. Well, it's not freezing, but it's pretty cold. And why I am here, I had a client the other day and I was doing a soul retrieval on her, which, if you don't know, soul retrieval is an ancient shamanic healing technique to retrieve those parts of our soul, like when we have a trauma or something and part of us disconnects or goes away, so we don't feel like ourselves anymore. And the soul retrieval is a way to, with the help of our spirit guides, to find those soul parts and bring them back to make someone whole. So that is one of the main healing things that I do as a shaman. And along with that, I sometimes do what is called Faery Doctoring. And just like I said, when we have a trauma, part of our psyche splits off to try to protect itself. And we call that soul loss. And soul retrieval is able to go and retrieve those soul parts to bring them back to a person to make them more whole again. But sometimes when we experience soul loss, especially someone who is really creative and connected to the fairy realm, the Fae will come, the fairies come, and they will take that soul part and they will bring it with them into the fairy realm with them, because their job is to balance the energies between our world and their world, between the seen and the unseen. And so sometimes as a way to balance that energy, they will take a soul part from a human here into the fairy realm. And whereas in a soul retrieval, when that soul part breaks off, it remains at that same age it was when it happened. Whenever that trauma happened, that soul part will remain, hey little bird, at that same age. And so when we retrieve it, it's like bringing back your 3-year-old or your 16-year-old or whatever it is. But when the fairies take a soul part into the fairy realm, they actually nourish it and nurture it and raise it so that that soul part remains concurrent with the age of whatever that person is. But anyway, so sometimes in a soul retrieval, I'll get a nudge, and so I go and check. I have basically a fairy liaison. Her name's Alandria, and I check with her to see if this person has a soul part in the Fae, the realm of the Fae, that we can return. The thing is, like I said, the reason they took that soul part in the first place is to balance the energies. So to retrieve that soul part, to bring that soul part from the unseen realm, the fairy realm, into the physical realm, we have to do some exchange, some energy exchange to equal that. And so doing this soul retrieval the other day, I got the hit to check with Alandria, and there was a soul part of this person in the fairy realm. And so I was able to retrieve it, bring it back, and blow that into her. But she had that in exchange, she had to do something. Her task was to dance for 6 days in a row. And that would help balance the energies of that retrieved soul part. And me, as the facilitator bringing that soul part back, I also have to do some kind of bargain to create an equal energy exchange. And so my assignment from the fairies to balance the energy of the soul part brought back to this woman is I'm supposed to make 5 videos where I tell stories. So five videos of 5 stories, and so this is the first one in that series. And so my first story, I brought my drum. This is my drum, Cougar Moon. It's a drum I made like 13 years ago. It's elk hide, and you can see these marks here. Those are actually cougar claw marks. The hide is elk, and so what the elk whose hide we used to make this drum survived a cougar attack. And if you look at it, it looks like the moon. And so I was like, what's your name? And it told me Cougar Moon. And not only did it give me the name of the drum, it gave me the story behind the name of the drum. And so that is the first story I wanted to share with you today. And so another thing on here, if you can see, this is hard to do, but there's kind of a darker spot down here. Oh, I can't make it work very well. There we go. It's kind of this shadowy figure slinking off. That fits in with the story of Cougar Moon as well. So the story of my drum, Cougar Moon, that is one time Cougar, who was in her own mind the greatest hunter in the world, was bragging about how great she was and how she could take down any prey. It didn't matter how big, how strong, how powerful. She could take down any prey. She was the divine huntress, and she was the queen of the wild. And Coyote, whose shadow you see here, got tired of hearing this boasting, and he was like, you know, someone needs to take her down a couple of notches, put a little reality check. And so he decided that he was the best qualified person to do that. And so he devised this plan to humble the cougar. And so one night he snuck into a human village and he stole the biggest elk hide that he could find. And he took the elk hide, and using his magic of glamour and illusion, he took and put the elk hide on him, and then he stood on top of this hill in the east and made himself look like the biggest, juiciest elk you can imagine. And the reason he was on this hill was because he knew that it was the night of the full harvest moon, and so that the timing was just right, and Cougar was patrolling her territory, coming around that area at just the right time when the moon is rising. And so here he is, the biggest, baddest, shiniest elk that you can imagine on the hill. And so Cougar patrolling, and she sees a glimmer of that golden elk, and she slinks to the ground, and she starts to do her stalk. She starts stalking up, getting as close as she can, ready to make her pounce. And right at that moment, the full golden harvest moon rose behind Coyote and his illusion of this elk. And as the cougar got ready to pounce, the moon rose and shone and shined and illuminated everything, and the cougar pounced, aiming for Coyote and his elk hide. But at the last moment, Coyote hit the ground, hide and all, just went flat. And so Cougar in her trajectory overshot Cougar, but she reached out and slashed, thinking that the moon was that shiny elk, and she put 2 claw marks on the surface of the moon. And right away the moon spun around. Grandmother Moon was so angry, who would dare reach out and attack her? And so from that moment on, the moon determined that she would always face the earth. So we always see the same side of the moon as she circles the earth. And meanwhile, Cougar in the shadows slunk away, because all he did was add fuel to the fire, because now Cougar had something to really boast about, because she had reached out. She was such a great huntress that she had been able to claw the moon. And so it backfired. He added fuel to the fire, and she got even more braggy and a bigger head, and there was no stopping her after that. So that is the story of Cougar Moon, my drum. That is the story when I made my drum, when we did my, I took the drum making class from a native woman, and we did it in ceremonies. So we made the drum, and then we waited a week, let the drum sit and dry, and we talked to the drum. The spirit of the drum connected with the spirit, and that's the spirit of my drum told me that its name was Cougar Moon, and that story just came full into my mind along with the name. So that is the first of 5 stories that I am going to be telling upcoming soon. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not the best at these. I'm not used to doing videos, and well, I mean, I do videos, but not storytelling and blah blah blah. But I have been getting more and more that I am a storyteller, and I am meant to tell more stories. So this is 1/5 of my contribution to my clients' Faery Doctoring, and so I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be back at some other point, another video, to tell another story. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it. If you want to know more about me, you can check out my website at perchingwolfstudios.net and see what I'm all about. All right, well, thank you, and I will see you soon. All right, bye. Go shining.